Welcome back to Oakley Hour. So today is a little different. I'm going to do my top 10 models, of which this one's actually not in it, but I will explain this in a moment. So by going through my top 10, I have a lot of models and some of them should be in it, but they're just pipped at the post for one reason or another. And many of the models have some very distinct chapters in my life, and most of my life, to give you a overview, has had incredibly traumatic events, um, but I masked a lot of that. So yeah, I was very successful in business, but a lot of it masked my personal life. And I think we very much develop masks that we carry on through our journey. And life is a roundabout. And I grew up in a house with my mother and grandmother. My mother divorced very early on. We went back to my grandmother's house, which she had from the day it was built. So a very old house, and well, it didn't feel it at the time. But anyway, and so that was kind of where life started, and also where another portion of my life ended up. But that's how things were, and life changed. Like I said, I've become successful, and most of the models that I'm going to show you, there are stories attached to them. So do excuse the camera wobble. I'm not very good on holding things like that. I do have um, physical issues as well as some CPTSD, and but you know, I do my best. So it actually took quite a lot for me to start this channel. It took a lot of energy. People have been telling me, well, my children have been telling me for a long time that I should put it out there, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. What will people say? And I just didn't have the guts to do it really. So let's get into it, and I will explain each one. I will give you the snippet that I took first, which is a bit rocky, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it afterwards. One, although it never reached my top 10, it deserves an honourable mention. This is the very first build that I did, which got me into modelling. I forgot to take off the plastic, as you can see, and let me see if it still lights up. Hold on. And it does. Can't remember who made it, but it was my very first one. It's what kind of got me into all of the models that I have now, and I learned a lot. Plastic, yay. Though not in the top 10, as I said, it is an honourable mention. It was my very first model. It was at a time that my life had really taken a real weird twist. I lost my job through COVID. At the same time, our mother had taken a downturn. She had vascular dementia, and I was required back to the family home to assist my sister in looking after her. So weird how that happens, right? Anyone who's looked after anyone with vascular dementia can relate to this. It's not an easy job by any stretch of the imagination. It's really hard. You love that person beyond what you can, express. But it was something I think I needed at the time, and it really helped me put my life in perspective, especially when things were taking a downturn. So along came this little friend, and I would do this model on the kitchen table, not the best of light, and I'd sit there and I'd try and work out how I was to do things. Didn't have any tools, it was literally my first model I'd ever done. I'd seen a few videos on people making models. They never looked hard, right? I mean, you watch these things, they're like, 15 minutes or something, and it's all, it's all done. Anyway, that wasn't how it went. So this was my first one. As you see, it still lights up. It still has the plastic on. Should have removed that. Didn't realise that. Um, and um, and it was the time that I did this while looking after my mother in the kitchen at night when she'd settled for the night. And it took a long time. I mean, months and months to do this, and I would focus on it for so long and things like that. It's got a bit dusty now, actually, but that's where this one came in. So this one will always hold a special part of my life. Let's go to number 10. This is number 10. Like I said, it's really hard to kind of decide which ones you like, which ones you don't. So the snow effect was I added. The tree I added as well, but I kind of thought it was really pretty, it was bright, and it kind of sang Christmassy to me. I hope you like that. Alright, so this little gem was purchased for me by my son, actually, and it was at a time, I mean, Christmas had kind of always, sorry, I'm resting them on my little tin here, had always been a very special time for me. It reminded me of my childhood. It was the one way, I didn't watch much TV. In fact, we had a black and white TV. That's, yeah, I'm not young here. And so, but my grandmother particularly always made it special, and definitely wasn't about gifts, nowhere near. When I was a child, my sister and I, we would get a pillowcase, and we'd have some gifts in there, and but they did the best they could. My mother was hardworking. She did 4 jobs in order to keep us and keep the house with our grandmother, and it was it's memorable. So why this one was special is, one, my son bought it for me. It was the first one I ever did any mods to, and I've done quite a few mods since, including that carousel that I showed at the beginning. But this was the one that I put a little snow effect on. I did purchase some glitter spray, and I sat there with my mum. She was bedbound by then and wasn't talking. And I would spray it, and I'd show her, and I'd be like, "What do you think? Do you think I should put some more snow on there?" And she's like, and that was how she could express herself. And so it ended up having a lot of snow on there because I wasn't sure really what my mum was trying to say. I was kind of bit guessing, but it sounded about right. So that's why it's got so much snow, and why it has such a fond memory. So many of these pieces got broken in the making. It was very fragile, a bit like some of the other models that I did, like some of the furniture I do with my granddaughter. It's very fragile stuff, but this particular Christmas was one we didn't know if Mum was going to make another one, and we made it incredibly special for all the family. All my children except for one came, but that's because they live in another country, and they all came. My 2 grandchildren that I had at the time came as well, and they spent the night. And so of course we made it very much about Santa and things like that. So it was, make sure that Santa was feeling welcome at the house, and that he knew where they were, that they weren't at their normal home. So we just made sure that everything was right for that situation. And it was, it had many, many memories. We actually had managed to get Mum out of bed. We weren't given any help to do this, and we were advised kind of not to do it as such, but we felt it was important that she was part of the experience. So some of that was that we managed to use the hoist to move her from the bed into an office chair, and my sons carried her to the dinner table. So she wasn't out of bed for long, but carried her to the dinner table over all the obstacles, making sure she was fully like pillowed in and things like that. And she sat there and she had a dinner with us. We all wore aprons. I got everybody that they had to decorate their own aprons so that she wouldn't feel unusual to be wearing an apron when no one else was. That's a bug. And so, you know, it was a very important Christmas, and we did think it was going to be our last. Fortunately, it wasn't. We did have, I think, one more after that before she passed. But very special model, very, very close to my heart. So let's go to what reached number 9. This one is number 9. Nice 3-tier house. Love the piano. Let me put some lights on for you. Alrighty. Took a while to do this one, like months. Alright, number 9. So this house was built after my mum had passed, and I moved into my own place for the first time. So I'd never lived alone before. I went straight from the family home to being married, and when that dissolved, then into another relationship, which ended up in marriage for a long time. Wasn't the smartest move. I'll have you that. And then eventually came back here and stayed with my mum. So it's kind of like this was the first time. So this was made. I'd seen a video on it. Again, it made it look very simple. And I thought, oh, I could do that. And I was starting to have my mental health as such had started to deteriorate. And this kind of reminded me of the home I always wanted and never really had. It was the only model that I made, and I messed it up so badly, particularly the stairs, actually. Messed it up so badly, I actually rebought the thing to make the stairs again, which wasn't, it was quite costly. It was a costly model, but nevertheless, and it was one that I put myself into, and it helped me cope with some of the things that had been happening. And I think while I had children, empty nest syndrome, right? And then kind of a few years later was looking after my mother. And then when she passed, I think everything kind of came flooding in, and the masks weren't applicable anymore, and my physical health didn't allow me to work anymore. And so I continued to do the modelling. So every one of the models is significant. This one was beautiful. It was like kind of the dream house that could have been with the dream lifestyle, although they do have an awful lot of cups all over the place. I will say that. They drink a lot of coffee or tea or whatever they're drinking. I think it's cappuccinos. But yeah, that's where that came from. It is musical. I will turn it on right at the end because I don't want it to go on forever. But yeah, that's why it was important. And it was a transitional time in my life, and one I still struggle with. It's not like that has gone away. Facing your demons and what caused mental health breaks is very hard, and even realizing that you have a problem. I mean, I was in denial. I was in denial for years. In reality, I actually thought, nope, that's not me. And so, that's kind of where that is. And this was my way of hiding, I guess, what I was going through. And while I was trying to deal with living on my own for the first time, and that in itself had so many problems, like, what can I say, like trust of people would be a good one. Letting people into the house, security is huge. I mean, it's still huge for me. And going out of the house, which one wants to think is your safety net, but you're not sure it's your safety net because it's also very new. So this was kind of my escape project, and many of them aren't going to have, like, not all my models have a story, but this was one of the first ones that I did when I came here. I do have one other one which I'm going to show you, which was a transition after my mum had passed, and I'll tell you that story a little later. All right, promised I'd do the music. So just before we go to number 8, I will put that on just a little bit. So wind up. There you go. See you on number 8. And this one is number 8. I think it's quite delightful, an awful lot going on with it, so it makes it really attractive to look at. And let me get the lights on for you. Never mind, they already were on. I thought that was a reflection, but it isn't. So it's not that bright, but it is okay, and it's lit at the bottom as well. It's just the detail that went into this one. It makes it rather beautiful. All right, and number 8. This is another one that I did after I moved in, and this one has less meaning. It deals with one of my PTSDs over water, so it was mainly to do with that. Not that I would ever want to live underwater, although I'm sure it's some people's thing, but it was a beautiful, it was a challenging model. The house is all furnished inside. You can't see it very well from this angle, but it was a nice one. I don't really have much else to say about this, but the reason why it's hit my top 10 is because of how beautiful it is. Like I say, it does have some symbolic meaning, but not as much as some of the others. But it just kind of deals with a water problem. Not literally a water problem, like in needing to go to the bathroom water problem, but just generally. A trauma associated with water really is a beautiful model. It was tricky in places, but is a beautiful model, and that's why it made it. So let's go to number 7. You don't have music on this one, but let's go to number 7. And this one's number 7. It's a Roqua marble run. This is actually up on my channel. I've done this one recently. I think it's a lovely build. Like I say, it's really hard putting these in order, but I think it is a lovely build. And they sit down. Okay, that's what I was going to do, but I forgot. Too keen to get it going. As you see, it works great. All right, so number 7 is very symbolic, believe it or not. So it's one that I've done very recently, but it represents the monotony, would that be the right word, of life. That the fact it does go round and round, and when you struggle to get out of bed, whether that's physical, mental, both, in my case both, and to do the same grindstone the next day, and then sometimes it fractures, like this piece up here, and it got Frankenstein put together, and that's a bit like my mental health fracture basically, and got put back together, and although it still works, you know that it's there, and so it kind of maybe makes one think of this different. Now, that said, it is twofold, because also watching this is very therapeutic in the sense of it's calming to watch it, especially if you could take the noise out. If you don't like repetitive noises, then wear headphones, but just watching it is a beautiful thing, and it's like a symphony of movement and that type of thing. So it's very symbolic, as in that when everything is working great, it is on a repeat, it carries on, and then there's a break, or something changes, or someone lets you down, or you get hurt somehow, or you feel horrendous for whatever reason, physically or mentally, and there's a break that eventually, hopefully, that break will be able to be fixed, or at least, even though it's still there, you can move on a bit and you can get back to. It's really hard for me to explain this, but anyway, and I'm not even going to go there. Like I say, it's definitely twofold. It represents order, and also in this particular case, because I broke it, fracture. But on the other hand, it also can be very therapeutic to watch that going on. Definitely going to be doing another one of these. I have one in mind. In fact, I have another one of these, and so I would do that, and hopefully that won't get a fracture on it, but that's why this one's very symbolic to me. But the reason it got to this position was because it really is a cool model. End of story. Let's move on. The 6 is this one, which is a Roker build, pretty sure. Have my doubt to myself now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Roker. Let me show you what it does. One of my favourite things is the train coming round at the bottom there. Only downside of this one is the lights are many, like next to none, but train going around is really cute. And of course you've got Santa going around, and it plays 3 tunes. So I know it's nowhere near December, but it's a kind of cool one. I had this made for December, or rather I made it for December. Right, this is not going to fit in well to the camera for this part of it, but one of the beauties of this one, you can see from the front, it's actually quite a new build for me. You also have a little tunnel at the back, by the way, and it is ran by a USB, which is kind of cool. So very little to say, like, symbolic wise for me, except for the fact this was made for my first Christmas in this house. I saw the build done, I thought how cool it was, and that was the only reason that I purchased it. So that was a very short one on that, wasn't it? And let's move to number 5. Number 5, and this one has a story too. Has a little waterfall, which is beautiful. Has a gondola. It's a gondola. Gosh, I knew the pronunciation was wrong. It's also got some really pretty designs here. Let me go see if those lights work, and I'll tell you the story on this one. There you go, and it's all lit up beautifully, and it plays music. Nothing moves, it just plays music, and it has the light, but I think it's delightful. Alright, number 5. Obviously this is my placeholder model. It's big, it's right on top of a unit, so it's rather difficult for me to lift to go over. The same with another one or two of mine. Yes, reason it reached number 5 was it is a beautiful model. It was one where my mum had just passed. She was strict with her instructions in her will, where we had to sell the house This was the house we grew up with, so we'd only ever known it, the one that was made by my grandmother. And she was strict that that's what had to happen. And my sister and I were therefore in between moving to make the chain easier. We moved in to one of my son's houses. She had a room and I had a room. And so we both had a room each. My sister had a cat, she still does, who never got on with my son's cats. And it was while we were waiting for the houses that we ended up buying to go through. So I built that model, not this one, at that place at a time where I was transitioning. I was still very much struggling with my mother's death. I was struggling with now being in a room, not a house, and sharing everything really. And this model was purchased for me, and it's one that I spent hours doing. It was a long process, and it's a beautiful model, and it's one that is very much in my transitional time. It's before, like I said, I was still very much grieving, and this added some romance as such to my life. It gave, like, it felt like a hope one. Things were going to be changing. I knew they were going to be changing again. We just moved everything out of our mother's house, and we'd cleared her house basically. And anyway, it was this mass transition time, and I was working in the smallest of rooms really. I mean, it was bigger than my sister had, but and trying to do these models, and dealing with the light sources and things like that. But it probably kept me sane, well, as sane as I was going to be. Yeah, so that's how that one got constructed. I think I might have finished it just after me moving in here, because we weren't there that long. We were only there about 6 weeks, so we knew we weren't going to be there long. But yeah, that's how that one came into play. So let's move on to, I believe, number 4. And then we have a number 4. I actually have, I believe, almost the set of all of these Roker fairground rides. But this one is number 4. I did do some mods. I put people with it, both inside the cups and going up the stairs and coming down them as well. Let me get it going for you. Let's see if I can do it while I'm holding the phone. Wasn't the easiest of builds I've ever done. This is the one when I talk in the videos and I say it's when you get to start it and you realise it doesn't work, and it's because you've missed a piece, one solitary piece. I had to undo the thing. Really cute. The cups change direction. The music can drive you crazy, huh? And you can just turn off if you don't want the music and you just want the lights when it comes around. Where is it? Here it comes. You can just have the lights on instead of the music. Kind of cool, huh? Next. All right, and number 4. Sorry, my little carousel keeps going off because I keep moving it to do my placeholder bit. Anyway, I did this one. This was while I was looking after my mum with my sister. I can't remember if I bought it for myself or it was a present. I just don't recall. And I decided to mod it by putting people in the little seats so that they can enjoy the cups, and also putting them on the stairs and also coming down. These guys are really cheap. I mean, it'd be cool to have something special. But it looks like one has fallen down, but I think it's just that they've got very skin colour trousers on, like this one here. I think it's just because it's skin colour trousers. Anyway, so that's what I did with this one. And I remember did a lot of this when I was sitting in with mum in the afternoons, and was showing her it as I was building it, and sort of like, what do you think, should we put some people on there? And I'd get the little grunt and things like that. And mum would sit there and she'd have TV on, but she never really watched it. And when you were in the room, she was literally watching you constantly and what you were doing, and I think that was kind of her entertainment, you know. And so I talked with her all along this build as to what I was doing. It's very cobwebby actually. I need to dust all these. I need to find, maybe I should get one of those magic duster things, you know, that just goes over and it collects everything. But yeah, so it's beside the point. So this one is just special because it reminds me of time with my mum. But I think overall, this, along with the other circus ones, but this one I probably added the people. I didn't mod any colours or anything like that. Unlike the carousel one I keep bringing in, that I added colour to. But all of these have been beautiful models. And like I said, when I was doing my shaky video, it was one that I'd got almost to the end and it didn't work, and it was just this one tiny cog that I'd forgotten to put in. I'd missed it. And but yeah, it's a delightful model. It's one of my favorites. It's one that the grandchildren will put on, battery operated, and yeah, never, you know, quite a delight, real delight. So it hit number 4. So let's move to number 3. This one is number 3, and this is one of my favourite builds. I think there's so much going on there. Like, this door has a brilliant 3D effect when you look from a distance. You've got a little scooter there, you've got a shop, you've got your little houses. It looks like a beautiful alley. I love this. Let me see if it still lights. And it's got all this on the top as well, so it's really beautiful. Hold on. There you go. And you'll probably see why this is my third from top favourite. It is really beautiful. The way you can see in all the rooms. I actually task most people when they come here to spot all the cats. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see them on the video, but you know, I know how many there are. All right, and here we have number 3. So this one is one that I actually did in this house, and this is very symbolic for many reasons. So number 1, I don't want to get away from this. This is a beautiful model. I mean, it is one, anyone looks at it, it is like so captivating. It's like, you know, like the street scene. I mean, that's what it's meant to be, I guess, even though this part here looks kind of like a book, you know. I mean, that's what it does. This is musical. I will try and remember to play the music at the end. But it's got cats in it. I quite often will get people who visit me to count how many they can find. So I'd be interested in how many you can see. Probably not going to see too many from these videos, but anyway. So this is a beautiful model. Why it's symbolic for my point of view, and it took my mental health to a fracture, basically, for me to realise that I was an alcoholic. And I had been an alcoholic for probably a good 25 years. And I didn't realise, and it was only when my mental health broke that for me to get any help was that I wasn't able to drink anymore. And then I got sick physically, and I was put on medication which has side effects if you drink. So all in all, I actually quit drinking, and my actual quit drinking date is the 3rd of July 2024, so I'm coming up for a year. I will say, in reality, there isn't a day that goes past that I think to myself, I'd like to have a glass of something. And I think that will probably be with me for the rest of my life. I do have alcohol in the house. I never got rid of it all. And I think that was almost my safety net with having a life where people tell you can't do things, or what you're saying has no value, and things like that. Then having a choice to still have alcohol if I wanted to, then that option's still there because I do still have alcohol in the house. That said, I know it would not be good for me. I was not a violent drunk or anything like that, but I was a very self-harming drunk, emotionally and mentally. I was very hard on myself. Still am, but not to the extent that I was very open about it when I drank. Did some really stupid stuff during drinking, to be honest with you, where some of my phobias come from. But the point is, this one was at a time that I had just in the very early part quit drinking, and so it still had quite, it was my focus to help me deal with that, getting rid of that addiction. And it was tough addiction to get rid of. It was a very difficult one for me. It was something where I had been dependent on it for years, and I went cold turkey. Like I said, I had alcohol in the house, still do. I'd like to get it in a glass case one day. Anyway, if any of you have seen the movie War of the Roses with Kathleen Turner and Danny DeVito, I think it is, and he has a cigarette which he's got in a little glass case. He breaks into it when he comes across that case, but you know, he's got that type of thing, and I would like to kind of do that with the bottle that I have here, just as a constant symbol, but nevertheless, or this works just as well because this is done at that time. But I do think it's a beautiful model in itself, and you know, I mean, you can see it run so deep. Let's turn on this music and see what it sounds like. And anyone who tells you it's easy to quit vices, I can assure you it's not. Beautiful sound. My dog didn't approve. Anyway, let's move on to number 2. My second favourite is the Disney Doll's House. It took about 2 years to build this. It's a beast, basically. And it has a hidden drawer, which goes in. That's Pooh's basement. And there's Winnie the Pooh flying a kite right now. It lights up, and I will show you that in a moment. The panels at the front there all come off to show what's inside, or most of them. And they also fall off very easy, which is the downside of it. I've had to mend this top panel quite often. And I try and light this up on the 1st of every month. That's my little aim there. So let me get it lit up for you. Alrighty, and there we have it. So the little lighthouse here does light up. It's just run out of batteries. Oh, I forgot about the fireplace. Let me get that done. And Beauty and the Beast has the fireplace. I'm not sure why my flash just came on. Alright, that's a bit better. Sorry about that. Okay, so yes, that's Beauty and the Beast. Cinderella. The laptop doesn't come with it. It was a present from my sister. Alice in Wonderland's room. Now her light was an issue. I had a problem with wiring, so it's got an additional one. Frozen with Olaf. Aristocats. Very cute they are too. Like I say, Donald Duck. Of course, you can't go without Mickey Mouse there with Minnie Mouse and Goofy. You have sorry, Little Mermaid's bathroom, and I just saw my curtains gone all over the show at the back there. It's heavy to move, so that's kind of her one. And then at the top here you have Peter Pan's room, which is kind of cute too. So Peter Pan, I did make, I don't know that you're going to be able to catch it actually. I did make a light, which the battery's just born out of, but I actually did a mod on that. I did a Tinkerbell in the top of it. And, sorry, my dog's been a monkey. Other mods I did was I did the stairs. They were just plain plastic, did those. I can't remember if there was anything else. A few bits and pieces in the house were done. And like I say, Winnie the Pooh's at the top there.
I mean, it is a beautiful house. It's a very expensive house, but you know, I'm really happy with it. Don't leave your batteries in there. When I came to light them just now, all my batteries had eroded on the inside. So lesson learned, don't do that.
All right, number two, the doll's house. So this doll's house is a beast. It was an awesome build. Uh, in reality, it should have reached number one. It cost a lot of money. Um, the downsides was, which is what I'm worried about, the moon in the house, was a lot of these panels are held on by magnets. And this top one falls down all the time, and not everything always lines up as it should. So far, so good on Moon, and don't get me wrong, but it was a beast. I did do some mods, like I said. I did the stairs here. I changed the light, which you can't even see on here, and put a little Tinkerbell silhouette with it, which was just actually a nail art silhouette, just one of those that they put on. So I got those for it. There was a few other things, I just can't recall what they were. But it is a beautiful model. Now, the special thing with this was that every time I had the delivery, I would sit there with Mum, and she was in she was bedbound, as I've said before, and she wasn't talking anymore. And I would sit by the side of her hospital bed, which was in the house, and put the side of it down, and I'd open the box, and we would go through the magazines, and all the things that came in that big box, and we'd put the box to one side, and I'd sit there and I would go through and read all the stories to her that were in the book. Not these ones, but the actual stories themselves. And it comes with brilliant posters. And then I'd read all this for her. And she seemed like she was really interested. Not sure she, totally understood what I was saying, but she seemed really interested. Then I'd show her the tiny little pieces that came with it, like the little sandwiches here and things like that, show her those. And then I would sit there in her room and actually do the build. And the doll's house was kept in her room, and we would light it up for Mum and things like that. It would be really cool if it had been musical. And we'd light it up, and I'd go through it, and she would just watch me constantly, and then I'd show her how we progressed through the build. And I can't remember if I finished it before she passed away. I don't recall, to be honest with you, but so it's very special in that way. I wish it said this on the bottom, but it doesn't. It doesn't say this at all. But I guess, but I think it. No, I don't even think it says this. So anyway, but and it's just stuck on. And mine's not central. I was like, I looked at it not even long ago, and it was like, I didn't get that very central. But yes, but it was a beautiful design. It was a part work, so I got it delivered every month, and I was really happy I did it. And I really do like part works. I'm doing 2 at the moment. I'm doing the Moomin, and I've just started doing the Snoopy build as well. And I think they would be delightful. And I know Disney also brought out musical theatre, and I'm really hoping that Hachette, who's the one who did this one, would let England see it. This one actually did come with extensions to it. So one of them, the first one, was like Christmas and a ice cream stall for the summer. And now I think there's an Easter one that's going out there, and they're actually live in Japan. But it went live in other countries, other European countries, but for some reason it didn't go to us. If it had done, I would have done it, but it didn't, so I couldn't. So instead, people buy me little bits and pieces so I could decorate it myself at Christmas time. I put this on every month on the 1st, and it's in memory of Mum. And yeah, so it does have a really special reason, and it should really have reached number one. If it wasn't for some of the things, like the roof has parts in it which have fallen apart a little bit, and like I say, this panel that goes over the front of here is particularly the worst, and it's got 2 bay windows, and every time it falls out, the bay windows break, so I have to keep re-gluing it. Anyway, that's the doll's house. Wasn't going to bring it back down for you again because that's a heavy beast. Yeah, it was a struggle. I had to have someone help me both bring it down and put it back up. So, but yeah, so And we ended up with 3 of these binders, by the way, full of instructions. So, a ton of them. I did say I'd cut all the posters out one day and have them plastered across the room. Anyway, that was number 2. I will get to number 1. Number 1 is the Roker pinball build. This one was a joy to make. I did some painting, like all the soldiers are painted. The little parcels in the back there are painted. Some of the sea lions, I don't think you can see it here, painted some of that. The snake head, so I didn't paint it all, but it is pretty cool. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to video this well, or even if I'll be able to get the ball off with one hand. Let me see what I can do. But everything works on it. Okay, so I do that and I let the ball go. So it's not on a straight surface, I'm blaming that. Okay, and basically you have like 8 balls, something like that, and it times you down. I have reached max score on it. Great little entertainment, a thing to show people. Had quite a lot of spare parts with it as well, so if things did get broken. But yeah, beautiful little build. My favourite, probably by far. No, not by far. Take that one back. But it is one of my favourites, and it was built at a very special point in my life. And this is number 1 for a few reasons. So, one, it is a beautiful build. It was one that I customised quite a lot, like even down to here. My little soldiers I customised. There's others around the side. I made this backdrop for it, painted some of these things. You know, it's not perfect, and I know an artist could do a lot better. I put stars on the little things here, made him green. I think it was meant to be a crocodile, not a snake, even though I know I said snake. And it works perfectly. The flippers all work really well, and it gives off beautiful sound, and it just is a really nice build. So I mean, even things like there's stars at the top here, those were painted, and I put some little gold sparkles on them and things like that. So just touches. But why it was and it has entertainment value. I mean, you know, the people can play on it and things like that. Of course, it's not plugged in all the time. You know, that would be crazy. All right, so yeah. So, and the other thing with this is I was a bit of race against time. It was as my mother was passing, and I was trying to get it done so I could show her it before she went. Although I know, you know, she wasn't really there at the end, but it was kind of my way, I guess, of trying to entertain her in those last days. And this took longer than days, don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, Mum passing took quite a long time, and it was a lot of staying up 24 hours and taking care of her, and giving her the most dignified end we could. And you know, it was a difficult time, but this was something that kept me a little bit sane. It kept me that I had to try and complete it so that I could show it to her before she died, basically. So it's special in that way, but like I say, it also has that it's got entertainment value, and who doesn't like that? So anyway, to summarise, this is my top 10. I know I've waffled on, but you know a little bit more about me. I mean, it takes like a lot for me to feel comfortable talking about myself openly. And like I said, a lot of the models do have very specific meaning to me. Others not so much, you know, but a lot do. and I'm sure that they all mark in one way or another certain chapters, certain parts of the story, and everyone has a story. It's not just a me thing. Let's see if I can show you the back of this. So you can see that's kind of cool. And yeah, it's everyone's got a story, everyone has difficulties, and it's just how we cope with them. And doing models has been the one thing. And like I say, you know, doing this channel, it's helped in many ways, um, because of you guys who watch, and the fact that I do feel support from that, and also my family too. They support what I'm doing, and you know, it's a part of me anyway, and it's a way that it's provided me with an outlet. Doing these models has been an outlet. I've made many models for all different reasons. Sometimes it's just because, oh, that looks cute, you know, and there I am doing that model next time I know. And yeah, I have quite a lot of models now. Going to run out of room soon and have to move house just to get one with a room which I can dedicate for it. But anyway, do take care, everyone. I appreciate that you've watched it. Sorry, it's quite a long video of me waffling on. But I hope you have enjoyed the top 10. Maybe I'll do another one day and have certain categories, because some didn't make it, like the little box theatres. Those are really cute. They didn't make it, and I can go through many reasons why. But they're really nice builds still. So I have one I've done very recently that didn't make it because I'd already started this video. Yeah, so do take care of yourselves. Please remember to like and subscribe, and thank you very much for your time and for watching the video and for your continued support. It actually means the world to me. Take care. Bye bye now.